Welcome to starting or growing a profitable food business with the emphasis, of course, being on profitable. So, of course, it was working like 2 seconds ago. All right. So a little bit about me. My name is Sarah Kimball. I own Cultivate Consulting. So it's a food business consulting agency. I have 20 years in food industries. Hey, Debbie, do you mind kind of being my presser since this is not working? Just point to you. So 20 years in food industries, so everything from restaurants, I was selling from farms, I was buying from farms at Whole Foods Market, so purchasing. I ran a commissary kitchen, and then from there, I realized working at a commissary kitchen as the manager that people were coming to me with their great food ideas, but they were really, really passionate about whatever it was that they were making, their grandma's secret recipe, whatever. But I started asking some questions, and I realized that they were starting in the wrong place. They were starting at the health department. I have a great idea. Health department, and I realized we were like missing a lot of things right in here. So that's really where Cultivate came from, was how can I help in here, from a great idea to actually executing that. And then 10 years in marketing and branding. I was the marketing director for Whole Foods Market. So one of my passions was really about how do I promote local products and get buy-in. So today we're talking about profitability, which is about money. Who feels uncomfortable? You don't have to raise your hand, but who feels uncomfortable talking about money? It's like we all want it, but it's actually a pretty uncomfortable thing to really get into. So I'm going to invite you to maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable and ask yourself some tough questions in this presentation. But yes, we are talking about money. So go ahead. And without money, there's no impact. So just keep that in mind. No money, no impact. So we're going to go over a recipe for a profitable food business today. So it starts with a great idea. Go ahead. Then we're going to choose a business model. We're going to optimize that business model. And there are 5 ingredients to get there. So we're going to go over those 5. So to start with, a great idea. So is it defensively unique? You might hear USP, it's unique selling position, but is your product something that is going to stand out in the marketplace? Something that you can, put a sword in the ground and say, I am different, I am unique, and it's defensible. So go ahead. So differentiation in a niche. So this is what makes you defensively unique. So there's a couple here. So product, ingredients, varietals, how do you stop there? So product, is it something really special? Are the ingredients really unique? Are you using local ingredients? Are you sourcing some new variety of something? Your terroir, is it something that can only be grown? You think about like Rocky Ford cantaloupe or Palisade peaches, right? That's terroir. Your brand, maybe you have a really unique brand that stood out, and now when you release a new product, it really stands out as part of your brand. Packaging is actually really, really important, especially depending on your target audience. Availability, maybe it's only available, Palisade peaches are only available in August and September. Personal relationships, you are the face of your brand. And then the last one is customer experience. So can they get something really unique from your experience for facing with you? And why do you need to be? Sorry. Why do you need to be defensively unique? This is why, right? So today we're talking, you can really apply this to any kind of food business, restaurants, coffee shops, a whole host of food businesses. But today we're talking about value added, or this category is called CPG, consumer packaged goods. So this is where a lot of food businesses are kind of landing. So you think about all of the different products, and this costs a grocer money if they pull off a product that is selling well You need to give them a reason to put your product on their shelf. Okay. So a great idea. Continuing on, is it solving a problem? So we're not talking about like third world problems. We're talking about now I have a can that I can take hiking with me, right? And I can take it on my boat trips or whatever. So we've solved the problem by putting our fancy beer in cans. Next slide. So a lot of problems are about, the problems that you're solving are things like, dietary things. So paleo or keto or gluten-free or being sugar-free, GMO-free, the free from, right? So that's where you're solving a problem a lot of times in the CPG category. And so you have a great idea. Now we talk about the MVP. So there's a lot of kind of tech terms that we borrow. So MVP is your minimum viable product. So what is it that I need to be able to get my product out there? What's the minimum amount that the product that I'm going to make? So a lot of people will kind of sit on it. They want to perfect it, get totally perfect before they release it into the world. Really, you want to start with your MVP, go out and test. So here's where you're going to get immediate feedback. So an MVP for like a sauce, for instance, you would need a bottle to put it in. You need the right labeling. You may or may not need a kitchen, depending on if it's cottage food. And then, a name, a logo, something. So then you can go out and start selling it. So Bootleg Bucha, testing out their product. Next one. So this Colorado Ketchup, this is one of their first markets. They have a minimum viable product. They have one product out there. Not bad, but now they're getting feedback from customers. Good. So we have our MVP, and now we're going to make sure it's a product market fit. So things like price, packaging, branding, and then we're going to test. So we have Bigler Bagels and Colorado Peach Company. So these are guys that are coming to the farmers market. They're getting immediate feedback on things like price and packaging. It's like your own focus group that you don't have to, well, you kind of have to pay for it, but hopefully they're paying you. So you're kind of checking in, you're testing all of those things, and then you're making changes, you're pivoting, you're making additions. Okay. And now Colorado Ketchup, they've kind of evolved, and now they have T-shirts and pins. They added a mustard, they're added a pickle, a relish. So they've been adding product as they've gotten more feedback. All right. So now, is it a profitable idea? So net profit equals sales minus all your costs. So costs are, first of all, this is a term, if you don't know this term, cost of goods sold or COGS, probably hear it a lot. If you don't know this term, get very familiar with it, and I'm happy to, I'm recording this, and I'm also, I'm happy to send you the PowerPoint so you can get all this good stuff. So essentially, your COGS are all the inputs that you need to have in a product to be able to sell it. So that's your ingredients and the labor to make it, and then your packaging and the labor to package it. So we're going to go through a quick example. Stop there for just a second. So this is for a giant chocolate chip cookie. So we're going to make big chocolate chip cookies. So this is something I try to take all of my clients through. So on the left-hand side, we're going to go ahead and put in our cookie recipe. So we have one batch that's going to yield 6 cookies. 6 cookies. So now we've entered in our ingredients on this side. Now the key in when you do this is that you're actually entering in the total package size that you buy it in. So for instance, flour is a 5-pound bag. I have changed that to ounces, and I'll tell you why in just a second, but you want to put it in by whatever package, your size of package that you're actually buying, and then the price. So typically when you start out, you're buying things in a retail environment, so things are going to be much more expensive, but you're testing. This is still the test phase. So if you go next one, Daddy. So now we have the actual, what we need to make those 6 cookies in our recipe. And the reason why we have it in ounces is because it's really, really important that you transition your recipe to be in weights. When you start scaling up into those big mixers and things, you're gonna have a much more consistent product if you go into weights versus like tablespoons or cups, that kind of thing. And it's gonna be it's gonna be a lot easier to multiply your recipe and consistency. So if you take away anything from today, put your recipes into weights. It'll make your life so much easier. So we get our total recipe cost. Now we need to add in our packaging. Again, we're buying in small amounts. Maybe this sleeve isn't going to be your long-term solution, whatever package it is. And you're going and you're buying Avery labels. You're printing them one by one. That's fine. So you put in what you buy them in. We get our packaging cost. All right. So now we're going to get into what does each thing cost? What does each cookie cost? So, okay. So very important that we put in our time, something. We have to book something in for time. I know a lot of producers, they're like, well, I'm not going to count my time because at the end, hopefully I make some profit. Hopefully, be the word, right? Hopefully I make some profit and I'll pay myself out of that. But it's really important when you're working on your COGS is that you are factoring in some time. I put a very minimum dollar amount, $10, right? So what would this take if you had to hire somebody? You were sick, you couldn't do it anymore, your time was spent elsewhere, better elsewhere. So putting in some time, so we put in 70 minutes, $10. Now we have a unit cost of $2.70 for a cookie. And then we need to include our packaging. So same deal, it takes 10 minutes to package this up. Go on. So now we have a 79 cents per package to package that cookie. So $3.50 per cookie. All right, this is where the challenge comes in. When you're dealing with, so DTC is direct to consumer. So this is my one-on-one, my farmer's market, my e-commerce, somebody who's ordering a dozen cookies from me directly for their kid's birthday. Okay. So now we need to decide what to price it at. So we feel like these cookies are special enough that we can price them at $5 a cookie. A big cookie, but it's probably a bit of a stretch. But they're really unique, whatever. So we're gonna say $5. So we're making $1.50 per cookie. Good. So we have a 30% gross margin. Okay, and then let's say we want to start getting into some wholesale. We want to sell to the food co-op or a coffee shop, something like that, right? So the reality is they have to get something for it. So now they have to tack on their amount. So we realize we're actually going to not make any money if we even sell it to them at the same price it costs us to make it. So $3.50. We're having 0% gross margin. And at the end of the day, a retailer is going to have to charge almost $8 for this cookie. So probably not realistic in this particular case, but that's okay. This is like the MVP, right? The minimum viable product. But I encourage businesses to look at this number early on because this is unrealistic. And so you need to start saying what is it that I can truly get from this? And how do I get my costs way down? How can I make wholesale work? And the other thing I find is that you don't want to be at the $5, you're selling at the market. Now you're on the grocery store shelves for $8, and now you have to explain to your customer why it's so much more expensive. And sometimes it actually goes the other way around. I found that producers are selling their product for less at a farmer's market than what it is on a grocery shelf. And that doesn't really, it's just not a great retail practice. So having your prices aligned both at direct to consumer and at retail is really important. Okay. So my COGS, cost of goods sold, if I'm selling direct to the consumer, it's 70%. So 30% gross margin, it's just kind of the balance out there. And then it's 100%, right, because I get no margin on wholesale. Then this part's really key, the break even. So this is what you're trying to get to, the gold nugget. So if I sell 200 cookies a month, I have 4 farmers markets, I sell 50 cookies at each market. My gross profit is almost $300. Wholesale is nothing. So $300, is it worth it? Now this doesn't include the next line of expenses. So we have our COGS. Now we got to factor in our overhead. So overhead is all of the indirect costs, your fixed and variable expenses. So these are some examples of fixed expenses. And then variable expenses, so your commissary kitchen, depending on your situation and your contract. The commissary kitchen, for those of you who don't know, just to give you the terminology, is if you want to make something for wholesale, you need to be operating out of a commissary kitchen or a commercial kitchen. So a commissary kitchen is basically a commercial kitchen that you rent space from, hourly or monthly, however they want to structure your contract. So essentially you're working legally in that commissary kitchen. So then sales and marketing. And I put an asterisk behind this because I wanted to be sure I talked about that marketing. So in a lot of businesses, they just say like 3 to 5% is what I'm going to spend on marketing. You don't get that luxury as a food business. You need to spend whatever it takes. So that may be 100%, that may be more. To get started, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on sales and marketing. So examples of this are samples, promotions, advertising. So this is Mikkel with Fort Collins Pickle Company. She's got her samples out. She's got her nice banner. She's got T-shirts, right? So these are all things around sales and marketing. Okay. So again, we're coming with this as a profitable idea. So now we finally get to profit. Under our costs. So sales minus our cost of goods sold equals our gross margin. Then we're going to subtract out our overhead. And what we're left with is our EBITDA. So that's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. Then we're going to subtract that out. And then we're going to get our net income. So a lot of things come out of that gross profit. So food business is right about 3 to 15%. It's kind of the range that you're going to see. An average is 5%. So in our cooking example, when we sell 200 cookies, we're going to end up with a net income, net profit of $50. So we need to grow. We need to fix this problem. But that's where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, I'm making so much money. So we need to choose our path. So the first thing, we're going to choose our business models. The first thing is knowing yourself. So I talk with people, and they just want to make their thing, their food that they love in the kitchen. They don't want to be the face of the business. And then other people really want to be the face of the business. They're great at sales and marketing, but they don't really want to be making the food. It's also, do you want to be a local business only? Do you want to be regional? Do you want to be national? You got to be thinking about these things ahead of time. So knowing yourself is really important, kind of taking an inventory of your strengths and your weaknesses. And then I really suggest going through a lean business model canvas. So you can wait here for a second. This is a one-pager. Who's seen something like this, like the lean business model? Okay. So I like this. When people give me like a pretty thick business plan, it's like, oh, this is dense, right? And it's great. I mean, you've gotten your thoughts out on paper, but anymore in this kind of age of like quick digestible information, bankers and consultants, we're looking for something that's pretty quick and dirty that we can glance at. Plus, this is something that you can look at every day, right? You're not going to like, who reads a business plan after you put it together? But this is something you can put up on your wall, by your computer. So I would highly recommend you just, at the very beginning, you take some time. This will take you like 20 minutes to, tops. But what we talked about being defensively unique, you're identifying the problem that you're solving, what's your unique value proposition, what are some of your unfair things like competition and easily copyable. How are you going to get your product identifying your sales channels, customers, breaking down who your customers are, and then your costs and your revenue. So quick and dirty. And what's nice is you can go back and you can kind of update this after you've tested and tested and tested. And it's easy. It's just such a great use of your time. Okay, so now we need to choose a business model path. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so stay there. So food businesses models that achieve scale and cash flow. So one option, so you have a profitable idea. You're like, yes, I can do these cookies. So you can go to where the market is. And that means you're going to where people are shopping, right? To grocery stores, wherever. So you have options there. You can just go local, stay local. You can go regional. If you want to go into Denver and Boulder. You may have an opportunity to sell your business at that point, if that's what you're in it for. Some people want to keep it. Some people want to sell. And then you can go national. You can Targets and Supers and Walmarts and things like that. And then again, you may have an option to sell your business at that point. Or you can stay small, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with, I just want to be here in Fort Collins or local or in Colorado. But in order to succeed, just like the cookie example where you're making $50 net profit, you really need to diversify your income. So by that, I'm not going to get into these, but the two ways you do that are horizontal integrated business or vertical integrated business. All right. So now we're going to optimize our business model from point A to point B. So it is the business model, not the product, that is going to make you money. Determines whether you will succeed. And so a business model is taking all of the various factors as a cohesive whole. And then a fundable business model, because in order to succeed and be profitable, you're going to need to raise capital. Is optimized so that you have a better likelihood of achieving positive and above average return. So I'm just going to reiterate, it is the business model, not the product. It is not your salsa, it is not your jam, not whatever, your bread that is going to ultimately help you be profitable. It's great that you have a great idea, but it needs to be a whole factor, a whole bunch of factors that go into making that profitable. So we talked about defensively unique value proposition. So the next thing is, do I have a sufficient market size? And can I scale up? So a market size is just, are there enough people to support your product? We cannot, somebody came to me and said, I want to make a salsa. I would, no more salsas. Do we know? We have like 15 salsas in Fort Collins. So that is saturated. We don't have the market size. Go to Denver, go to a bigger city, but Fort Collins cannot support one more salsa, okay? And then when we talk about scaling up, so in our cookie example, we were, in our direct consumer, we were at 70% cost of goods sold, meaning we had 30% gross margin. Then at some point, as you start scaling up, right, now we're making those cookies in bigger batches. We are here, and so things start to come down as we scale up, which is a good thing. And then ideally, we're going to get to, at the minimum, 45% gross margin, gross profit, and then 55% COGS. And people think that they can, like, this number can keep going down, but that's unrealistic. It's always going to cost you something to make that product. So what we see is that they tend to kind of, as you created efficiency, that you will, those COGS and your gross margins will kind of track in proportion to each other. So getting to 45%. You can make my water real quick. Mm-hmm. So how do we get to a gross margin of 45%? So you can go ahead and throw it up there. All right, stop there. So things like value engineering your product, negotiating your co-packer terms. So co-packer is somebody that's going to make your product for you. So there's various ones that can specialize in different things. But if you want somebody to make your jam, then they may you can negotiate with them to buy all of your ingredients, all of your packaging, and then they're holding the inventory. You could bring your manufacturing in-house, and maybe you become a co-packer, and that's diversifying your income. Okay, so we're going to run through the same model, but in a wholesale situation where we've scaled up, where we're becoming more efficient. So same deal, but now we are making 120 cookies versus our 6. So we're going to do the same thing, but now instead of a 5-pound bag of flour, we're buying a 50-pound bag of flour. And these are real prices. So I think our 5-pound bag of flour is $5, and now our 50-pound is $13. So we're going to save a lot on our ingredients as we start going up in bulk, right? Buying bigger pack sizes. And so then we've times our recipe by 20, and that's where weights come in handy. So now we've tested, we know we like our packaging. Good. So now we're getting a pre-printed sleeve. So no more sticking labels on the front and the back. They're pre-printed. We're buying 5,000 of them because we need to buy in bulk to get the cost savings, but we're bringing our packaging down. Okay. So now we go to batch ingredient costs. Now we factored in more time because it is going to take more time to make 120 cookies. But now we're at 90 cents a cookie, and it was like $2.70. So now we have a packaging cost. We factored in a little bit more time for packaging, and then we're ending up with 99 cents instead of $3.50 for our cookie. Okay. So now when we talk about pricing, this is where it gets more in line. So here's our $5 to our direct to consumer. We're making a really nice margin of 80%. And then now we're really going to start getting into wholesale. So now we can sell that cookie for $2.21. So now we're making a profit. Good. Now we have a gross margin of 55%, which is amazing. It's great. And now we're going through distribution. So now we've hired or we've gotten into a distribution company. We make the cookies, they deliver them, or we deliver them, and then they go and sell our cookies for us and handle all of the distribution, but they tack on 25%. It's very normal. So now at the final, so a retailer is going to add their 40% margin. So now we're actually aligned. So they can sell this cookie for $5, $4.90, and our prices to our direct consumer and our retail are the same, which is where you want them to be. So our COGS, 20%, which is really, really great. And then wholesale is 45%. Now we get to our break even. So let's say we're still going to do some farmers markets, because if you're staying local, you're really still going to want to be out there in the public and building brand awareness, brand loyalty, right? Face of the business. We're going to...
Sorry, go back.
So now we're selling $400 a month in our farmers markets, and we're selling 4,000 cookies a month to our distributor. So now we're doing a lot better, much better. If we still take our 5% to get our net profit, $642. It was $50, but we're tracking in the right direction. And let's assume you have more than one product, right? So hopefully you have I always recommend going into wholesale with 3 different SKUs. So let's say you have three other cookies. So now you're hopefully making the same. Things are moving in the right direction. So we talked about market and scale. So the next thing is brand, packaging, pricing, promotions, distribution channels, having all those right things in place. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because we're really talking about the profitability and stuff there, but this is something that I really try to specialize in around branding. So first we're going to segment our market. So we have this really unique product, defensively unique, but it's only really, you have a targeted audience. So we've segmented out who our customer base is. And then we're going to target those customers. So we got to be sure that our sales, marketing, advertising is in line with who our customer base is. Then we're going to make sure we're positioned well at a retailer. And then all of these things factor into so your positioning. So product, price, distribution, and promotion. So do you have the right promotions? So just as a couple of examples. So Noosa is kind of like the fairy tale story in Fort Collins, right? So Noosa, local, these guys, you know, went to Australia, came back, and they're like, oh, we found this great yogurt recipe, partnered with Morning Fresh Dairy. You know, I was at Whole Foods when they were getting started. They did a lot of guerrilla marketing, just getting on local grocery store shelves. And now they're this like multi-million-dollar national brand, many different products, still up in Bellevue, but a very successful food business company and went national. Yum Butter is out of Wisconsin, but what I like about them, their story goes that as soon as they had just normal, you know, peanut butter jars or whatever, but they changed their packaging. So this is an example of where packaging really mattered. So now it became a convenience, right? Their audience, their customer base is that like athletic or person that really cares about what they're putting in their body and they want convenience, snacks on the go. It has extra things like chia and hemp seeds and goji berries and all the things, right? So they're now a national brand in Target and Walmart and all those places. That's it. Stephen Mallows is a local brand here. They got 3 guys out of CSU. I actually wrote my first blog was about them, kind of documenting their story, so you can go read that on my website. But their story actually shifted. They were going the wholesale route and kind of the shotgun method. So Bed Bath & Beyond's and Targets and Whole Foods and all of these places. And they've actually reshifted their model to be e-commerce and having a lot of success with that. And this is another Fort Collins company, Wild Zora, that's catering, of course, to our paleo, grass-fed, the free-from. So making sure that, again, your branding is in line, that you're doing promotions that are in line with your target audience. So just some good examples of how people are branding. Okay, last is, not quite last. Second to last, the right staff, production facilities, and quality assurance. So staffing, so just up there. As a entrepreneur, you wear a lot of hats, right? Nobody has any money for hiring bookkeepers and marketers, and everybody's running their own social media, for better or for worse. So you're gonna wear a lot of hats in the beginning, and that's okay. That's the way it is. But again, we will go back to like knowing yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So as soon as you can, I call it delegating up, right? So you're freeing yourself to do what you're really good at by delegating up. So start by contracting out things like bookkeeping, human resources, like payroll. Contracting out your marketing and branding to people like me, or hire a social media person so that they can free you up to go do things that you're really good at. And same with sales. If you're not a salesman, you just want to be in the kitchen making your thing, go hire somebody that can really represent you and get those sales. When you do hire somebody, the actual like formal hire, not just a contract position, I highly encourage you to invest in the best, get the best you can for the amount of money you can, and then work on creating a company culture. I hear a lot of times when people get to this stage where they're hiring out that they say, well, when I go to the farmer's market, I can blow through all of my cookies, but then I send that college kid that I hired for $12 an hour, they don't sell anything. They're on their phone, right? Like, Debbie works with me at the winter market, and how many people like do we just see on their phones? That's not actually salesmanship. Nobody wants to come talk to you because you're not open. sales. So creating a company culture and getting people on board and invested in your idea and getting them just as bought in as you are about your product. So the right facilities. So if you're in a commissary kitchen, making sure that you have, if you're making those cookies, make sure your kitchen has one of those giant mixers. Make sure they have lots of ovens and speed rack and all the things that you need. If you're making sauces, make sure that they have a lot of them have bottling equipment or tilt skillets or whatever is special, whatever is going to help you become more efficient as you scale up. And then if you do go to a co-packing situation, making sure that they have the right equipment, that they're in line, because a lot of them specialize in various things, and that they have the right quality assurance as well. So, you know, we would hate to see you go from like highly consistent and having a great product to then moving to a co-packer, and now everybody's like, ugh, this cookie's not that good anymore, and then they stop buying it. So just making sure you have the right facilities. And then the last thing on these are our sub-recipes for our overall big recipe. So enough appropriate capital to fund growth. So if you need money, well, I'll go through this first. So optimizing your cash flow. So here's the problem. Stop there. You have cash out, right? You're forking out money. You're buying all your materials. So I'm buying my flour and my chocolate chips and all of that. And I'm buying my packaging. So I put out a lot of cash. And then I need to produce it. So I got to pay people or pay myself to produce that inventory. So more cash. You're just like bleeding cash right now. Then you're going to sell your product. Now it's great in a direct-to-consumer model. You're getting that cash right then. But when you go to a wholesale model, they aren't paying you up front. So you're giving them your product, and then you're going to bill them for it. This cycle right here is going to take about 45 to 90 days in a wholesale. You can stop there. So how can you shorten that cycle? This is where a lot of businesses, when they start moving up into wholesale, this is where they fail, frankly. Because they can't wait 90 days. You need to have, if you're going into like a UNFI or a large scale distributor, UNFI is who distributes like all the natural products in the US, you have to have 3 turns of inventory. Like that's a lot of, I gotta make a lot of cookies or a lot of jam ahead of time to be able to get those 3 turns, and I'm not gonna see any money for 3 months. So you have to raise capital at this point. And in fact, you have to raise capital before this. And how you shorten this cycle is you get on the phone and you call and you call and you call. Because, I mean, I'm guilty of this. If I know a bill is due in 30 days, I'm going to like eke it out to the very end of the 30 days and then be like, oh, check's in the mail, right? So you have to stay on the phone with people and have a process where you're constantly circling back with people who owe you money. So this is a term borrowed from tech, but it's Valley of Death. So as you kind of dip into this where you need cash, Valley of Death. But in food businesses, unfortunately, you hit a lot of valleys of death. So you're tracking along, you're like, I'm doing my DTC thing, I'm at farmers markets, I'm getting some good awareness. And then it's like, now I gotta buy all this ingredients, all this packaging, I need a lot of capital. And generally you kind of you infuse it with some friends and family money, your mom gives you some money, maybe do a Kickstarter or something. So now you've gotten enough cash to kind of get you up to the next level. So you're constantly like doing this Valley of Death thing. And the key is that you have to be in front of it. When you need money right now, it's too late. You're not going to be able to raise that capital quick enough to get you out of this. So you really have to be thinking ahead. Like I said, with the example of getting into like a UNFI, if I need 3 months of inventory, I need to be raising capital way before that, before I commit to that contract so that I can float myself for those 90 days. Good. So each time you scale up, you're going to need some capital. And it's going to be in large increments. So it's not just like steady line. It's I scaled up a little. Now I'm getting into some wholesale. I'm getting local. I'm in maybe the local Whole Foods. I'm in food co-op. I'm, doing coffee shops. But now if I really want to go big time, I need some serious cash. So this is just kind of a snapshot. As you really start getting serious about raising capital, this would be something I would walk you through. But essentially, you're kind of saying, like, here's it's like a scorecard, my report card of my business. And then here's where the money is coming from. I will tell you that a local business that's doing local value-added product, you just want to stay in like Fort Collins, you're going to max out at about 150 grand in sales. You just don't have a big enough market for that to go beyond that. So in any case, here's all the things that I need. I need 60 grand to keep going and scaling up. Here's where I'm going to get it from. I'm going to get some microloans. I'm going to get friends and family, Kickstarter. This is pretty typical of like an early stage food business. So, and then you also need solid financials. And again, this is like, I feel like food businesses are just like, they run away from the money talk. They just want to make their product and they want to go sell it. Oh, great. But you need somebody like me or a partner that's going to be really good at financials. You need to set up your income statement properly. You need to set up your balance sheet and keep it up to date. You need to have a cash flow statement that is kept up to date. And then consider your credit rating. So if you think you want to go, large scale, if you want to go regional, national, you need a good credit score. And so if you don't have one, I highly suggest you kind of take a step back and say, how can I build a good credit score? And then you're going to need to raise money. So when you're doing large scale capital raises, you're going to do pitch deck. You're going to look at your debt to equity ratios. So a lot of times these like friends and family loans, I suggest never, ever, ever give away too much of your company up front. So don't be like, well, my uncle will give me, 10 grand, but he wants 10% of the company. 10% of, 20 grand isn't that much. But now if you're moving up and you have $1 million in sales, 10% of $1 million is a lot. So don't give away equity if you can help it up front early on. But use something called a convertible note so that you could convert these loans over to equity later on when you're worth more. So that's just one strategy when we talk about raising capital. And then you might be doing capital raises where you're actually selling stock in your company, raising equity. Okay. So to recap, you can stop there. So these are the three kind of big recipe ingredients. So great idea. Is it defensively unique? Is it a profitable idea? You're going to choose a business model. So choosing your path. Are we going to go local, national, regional? Are we going to stay small? And then diversify my income. And then how do I optimize that business model? So just to recap the 5 ingredients to get you to optimization. Defensively unique, scale, market and scale, your branding, your marketing and sales, your staff and facilities, and your ability to raise capital. So that's the magic formula right there. I do want to just point you out to my website. I put together a pretty, working on, it's pretty comprehensive now and I keep adding to it. But depending on kind of where you're at, because I'm sure some of you are like well into retail and wholesale, but some of you might just be starting out. So on my website under food business resources, I have a lot of information about Cottage Food Act, wholesale, and then getting into retail. So lots of links and information and kind of helping to walk you through the process on that. And that is my information, and I have cards up there. But I wanted to, 11 o'clock now, I wanted to leave some time for questions. Let me see if I I know I call this like drinking from the fire hose with my clients. So it was a lot of information, but I think a lot of really key points into being a profitable business.